we're going to start with a conversation and we'll let Dickon share his wisdom, really. It's a platform for him to speak and share what he would like to share around the principles. It sounds like he wants to talk a little bit about the experience of the holidays and especially the songs and why there's a lot of focus on peace and joy and love. And welcome to this space. This is the soothing mental, or sorry, I have one that's called releasing mental tension. This is soothing the unsettled mind.
I
And we're
like that
going,
title.
we have unsettled mind, maybe a few of us, one or two. Did you ever have an unsettled mind, Dickon?
Oh, I still do. It comes and goes, but it doesn't matter to me anymore the way it used to.
I think that's the trick, not even the trick or the secret, but that's a new way of seeing it,
Yeah.
that it's okay to have an unsettled mind or a settled mind, and both are just an experience of life. And the topic for today is presence.
Mm.
And Dickon proposed the topic. He wanted to talk about where psychology and spirituality come together to create our experience of life.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming, and it just warms my heart so much to see names and faces. And if you're able to and turn your camera on, I don't care if you're in your pajamas or what you're up to. I like to talk to people rather than names, but um, it's lovely seeing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's very nice. Very nice. Oh, I appreciate it. We're going to leave plenty of time for you to share anything you're hearing that's coming alive for you from listening. And if you have questions, certainly those are fine anytime. Well, I'm excited. It was only a few days ago I just got full bore into the Christmas spirit, and one of the things I've loved about Christmas, my wife sings, and ever since I've known her, we met in 1966, and she was singing in two different choral groups at the university we went to, and then she's sung in choral groups her whole life. Uh, She's had the opportunity to sing at Carnegie Hall with the Pittsburgh Symphony. And anyway, she just had their annual Christmas. They do a Christmas concert filled with Christmas songs from all different ages. And they have a monitor up over the stage now. They use them in operas where they put a translation of the words up on the top. So not only could you hear these Christmas carols from all different centuries, but you could see the words, and so often words were used by, like, I mean, just think of that Christmas carol, Silent Night. If you start thinking of that of a description of the state of mind that's holy and sacred, it becomes a very spiritual song. As many of these carols were written by people, artists who drop into a quiet, calm mind, and then they write their Christmas carols from that place. So they often are direct reflections of the state of mind that's most natural to us. Calm, silent, still. I mean, these are spiritual teachings in themselves. Ramana Maharshi is one of the greatest spiritual teachers and when he went to summarize his whole teaching, it would be still, which is another way of talking about presence. And all of these songs always talk about, and in spiritual teaching, there's three emotions or feelings that are talked about the most, always: peace, joy or happiness, and love. Many of you are familiar with the three principles, so I'll just make a reference to a lot of the time we're in our personal thinking about things. A lot of the time, which means we're not present. That's all it means. We're not present. We're in our personal thinking about our life, our problems, ourselves. And it's only in personal thinking that people have psychological difficulty. So one time, Sydney Banks, my teacher, said, "You know what ego is? Everything you think." And then he says, "You know, the primary quality of personal thinking is fear." Like I watch my little 5-year-old granddaughter. Most of the time, she's present and playful and happy and enjoying herself. And then once in a while, she gets some angry thoughts about her brother and what he's doing. But as soon as she gets angry, you know what she does? She doesn't even think about it. She immediately drops those thoughts. Why? Because she's more interested in playing than she is in thinking about herself and her life. It's a higher priority. She's more interested in being happy than miserable. So little kids are very resilient because as soon as they feel that upset, they become present. As we get older, we feel the upset and then we start thinking about it. What's going on? Why is this happening? Why are they doing this to me? I can't believe it. And we get caught in our story, our personal story. And that's what keeps us from being resilient. So listen to this. Most of the kind of thinking, I'll call it negative, not because I see it as wrong or bad, but it's thinking that when we get caught up in or think, it lowers our spirits. And I'm going to just make a generalization. Positive thinking is just the thinking that happens where our spirits come up, where we feel better, plain and simple. And we all have both. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we're given this gift of thought when we're born and have free will, which very simply means we're free to keep thinking any thoughts we want. We're free to let go of negative thoughts if we want and be like our little grandchildren and come back to the present moment and get over it. And we're built to feel good. So as soon as our head clears of negative thinking, we feel better. So if you fill your head up, as we often do when we get into low moods, we fill our heads up with judgments. Always say, it shouldn't be this way. This shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be acting that way. I shouldn't be acting this way. We fill our heads up with thoughts that create unhappiness, very simply. At any moment, your thinking is either creating this feeling or this feeling, contraction or expansion. Some spiritual teachings say there's only two emotions in the world, love and fear. Thinking that creates contraction, as Sid says, all of that personal thinking is based on judgments and worries and upsets, and it creates dissatisfaction, but primarily it creates fear. We contract away from the world. And when we drop those thoughts and become present, that energy gets released and it starts to expand. So if we let go of all the judgments and the shoulds and the labels and the limiting thoughts, that's what's called peace of mind. So, of course, spiritual teaching is all about letting go and forgiveness and not holding and releasing and allowing. And the feeling of that is you're at peace because you're no longer being tormented by your own negative thinking, your own judgments, your own shoulds. So that's why peace shows up in all these Christmas carols. Sleep in heavenly peace. Peace of mind is very simply a mind that has released personal thought and is resting in the present moment. For some people, the only time they allow themselves to release all of their thinking is when they get into bed and they go, oh, it feels so good to get into bed. Well, it feels good because you released everything you were thinking. If you got into bed and kept worrying, I guarantee you wouldn't say it feels good to get into bed. You would be experiencing your thinking. So, peace. Peace of mind is the absence of negative thought. Now, they can still flow through your mind, but if you're not paying attention to them or holding on to them, that's still the absence of negative thought. It just flows through then. It doesn't hurt you. You can have the thought, boy, am I stupid. And if you hold on to it, you can be miserable. If it flows through, you're like a little kid. They don't pay any attention to their negative thoughts when they're upset. They just flow through and they come right back up again. It's fun to watch really little kids and see how resilient they are and watch what happens when they get upset. Most adults, when they get upset, you know, the number one thing they do always more thinking. If you start understanding I'm the thinker and I have free will, as soon as you feel that tension, that anxiety, that worry, that depression, that upset, you immediately let go of everything you're thinking. Not some of it, not start thinking about something, not trying to think positive. You let go of everything you're thinking. That's called presence. You're just present. You're resting in the feeling of being. And then you don't care what thoughts flow through you. So you can have all different kinds of thoughts, but you're very resilient. You have all different kinds of feelings, but you're very resilient. Resilience is the hallmark of well being. That's how you can tell somebody has psychological and spiritual well being, is when they feel this, do they have enough understanding that they utilize their free will to release? Holding is suffering. That's a primary tenet in Buddhism. Holding, clinging, attachment is suffering. Flowing is nirvana. Flowing is being in the flow of life, which feels good. In sports, flowing is being in the zone. I used to love to play soccer or basketball and be fully present because it was just amazing what could happen. Miracles happen only in the present. We can only be happy and loving when we're in the present moment, but we'll get to that. Okay, so peace is the absence of negative thought. When my head clears of what I'm thinking and I'm just present, I still have thoughts. I don't care if I have one thought or 1,000 thoughts. I'm like the sky. Presence, the metaphor most often used for presence in spiritual teaching, is the sky. And the sky doesn't monitor how many birds fly through it or the clouds, or everything is free to flow through. That's being at peace no matter what you're experiencing. It's feeling your emotions without creating a story around it. It's interesting, in Tibetan Buddhism, they call it newborn consciousness. You're like a newborn. You're not monitoring, you're not conceptualizing. Freedom from the conceptual mind, Eckhart Tolle says, the number one step towards spirituality. Isn't that interesting? What does it mean to be free of our conceptual mind? When we're fully present, we're not paying attention to the content of our thinking. We're not limited by concepts. We're open minded instead of closed minded. We're in the flow. As our negative thoughts flow, guess what happens in our senses? They come alive. I go for people hiking in the woods all the time. And if people are thinking they will never experience beauty during the hike, they won't. Their senses are closed. When we're closed minded, we close off our senses. So you don't even see the trees, nonetheless experience beauty. You don't even see your spouse or your friends. You're in your story. You are watching the movie of your own making. When we're present and our senses come alive, oh, that smells good. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, this feels wonderful. Oh, this food is so good. This is the best food I've ever eaten. That's happiness. That's why in spiritual traditions they say happy is our true nature. As soon as we're fully present, there's contentment and happiness. Contentment, peace of mind, happiness, senses alive. My friends, I used to do so much thinking, my friends would sometimes say to me, Dicken, come to your senses. It's like saying, come home, come home, get out of your story, this prefabricated dream, this nightmare that you're creating, this illusion. Wake up to the now. Wake up to peace. Wake up to your natural capacity to enjoy the moment as it is. I just spent 4 hours yesterday morning doing a fundraiser for African war refugees, and they're learning the principles. There's 20 projects now in Africa teaching the principles. It's spreading like wildfire. And one of their favorite sayings is happiness is free. It's free, no matter where you are, no matter what situation you're in. You can't buy it. That's obvious. People try to buy happiness, and the richest people in the world that I've worked with are not usually very happy people at all. But it's free, no matter what you've been through in your past. When you rest in the now, which is why in many spiritual teachings they'll say the highest form of meditation is not doing something; it's resting in presence. In Christianity, I have Benedictine monk friends, and they talk about prayer as resting in the presence of God, which is our true self. Remember, most adults, when they feel tension, stress, or upset, do more thinking rather than go, oh, I'm just thinking thoughts that make me feel unhappy, miserable, unhappy. I'm the thinker. I have a choice. I can either hold on to these thoughts or I can drop them and come back to the now, which is the only place human beings can experience well being. If I'm with my wife and I'm thinking about anything, including love, she'll go, where are you? You're not here. You're not with me. Oh, I'm feeling such great love. Yeah, but you're not here. That's conditional love as opposed to unconditional love, which is natural. Okay, we've done peace, absence of negative thinking. Happiness is when we quiet down, our senses come alive, and that's happiness or joy. Enjoyment is enjoyment of the senses. I enjoy seeing you. I enjoy hearing you. I enjoy tasting and smelling, touching. That's why joy is joy to the world is a Christmas blessing. Happiness, joy are radiant feelings. Peace is a radiant feeling. Love is a radiant feeling. That's why light has been used as a symbol. So all the references to light in Christianity, they started before there was Christmas. There was the winter solstice, and they would have bonfires. So red and green became the colors of Christmas. And the light became a symbol for the coming of light. And that's not just at some future time or some other person. It's when we let go of the thoughts that create our own darkness, our inner light shines forth as peace, as happiness, and love. When our minds get really present, we feel closer to anything around us. Oh, love that tree. It's so beautiful. Oh, I love that flower. Oh, I love this music. Oh, you feel this intimacy with people. Love is just the natural experience of what's already true. We're already connected to everything and everybody. Okay, I wanted to talk about peace, joy, and love during the holiday seasons in light because they're metaphors for our natural state of mind. It's what heaven is in truth. And it has nothing to do with circumstance. Listening to 4 hours to these refugees, sharing their love and their joy and their peace, and they have witnessed unbelievable horrors. Talking to a 24-year-old man, hearing his story, and he had been married a year and they killed his wife, and now he's teaching the people that killed his wife the three principles. And he's talking to them about the power of letting go of negative thought, which is what forgiveness is. Unbelievably moving, powerful. If you want to hear those stories, there's the three principles. Africa has a YouTube channel, and you can go hear the stories of refugees talking about how simply and deeply they've seen the principles. I don't like thinking about the principles. I don't like reading about the principles and thinking about the principles. I like taking one phrase from a talk or a book and looking toward where it's pointing. So if Sid Banks says you have to go beyond all thoughts, all concepts, all beliefs, the last thing I want to do is think about that. Oh, do I go beyond all thoughts? Let me see. How would I do that? What does that mean? Go beyond all thoughts. All thoughts. Does he really mean all thoughts? That's just your intellect screwing with you. To go beyond all thoughts, if Sid said you have to go beyond all thoughts, I go, okay, let me, here I go. Bye bye. I'm letting go of everything I'm thinking right now. I'm not waiting until after the talk is over. I'm doing it while he's talking to me, which is why he would say, don't listen to my words. Look for where I'm trying to point you right now, not later, not now, later. If he said, if you let go of all of your thoughts, there's peace, I wouldn't take his word for it. I'd right then and there stop and reflect. Hmm. Yeah, I guess it is peaceful if I keep letting go of everything, just being present. Do my senses come alive when my mind gets quiet? I think I'll go for a walk and find out. That's why Sid says don't ever take anybody's word for anything in the principles. Find out. One time Sid says, the simplest thing, the only thing I've been saying to people all these years, he said this a number of different times. Look within, go beyond your thinking. There's a quiet that's always there underneath the noise of your thinking. Locate that, find it, feel it, sense it. Quiet, silence, a stillness. Rest in that. Allow that, be that, feel that. So Sid would say, the only thing I've been saying is look within, go beyond the thinking you're holding on to. You might be aware of the holding. That's okay. Go beyond the thinking that you're holding. And there's silence. And if you are very aware of, there's a feeling to presence, feeling to silence. You don't have to label it. It's the feeling of that energy opening up and expanding rather than when you're thinking it most often contracts. And it's a nice feeling. You said that you don't even have to label it peace, joy, or love. It's just a nice feeling. Look within, go beyond your contracted thinking. Underneath that thinking, beyond that thinking, there's a silence, but you have to find it. It's right here now. I can sense it. Right here, only here, always here, right now, here. Peace, feel it, sense it. Aliveness of energy is alive. You can feel the living God in you, alive. It's a presence. Sid sometimes called that feeling of aliveness our soul. And our soul is a combination of our personal self and our divine self. It's where they meet, meeting ground of spirit and psychology. Some people call that the heart because of the feeling. or they'll call it light because of the feeling. So he'd say, listen. You can't think and listen at the same time. So it's brilliant. It's a metaphor. Listen for a beautiful feeling. So he'd say, look within. There's a quiet, a silence, a feeling. And you'll discover that when you're resting in that quiet feeling, you don't have to think about wisdom. It's living you. It'll just, whatever you do when you're in that state is being guided by a deeper intelligence. So sometimes I get quiet and I go, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. That's wisdom guiding me. Right now, that's the best thing that can happen. Or to say, oh my God, and a person's name will come to mind and I'll call them right up. I'm being guided by a deeper intelligence than my intellect. Or I'll go apologize to somebody, or I don't have to think about it. I discovered I can parent. If I find this quiet feeling, I don't have to read a single book on parenting. I just go be with my kids while I'm in that state. And whatever occurs to me to say or do comes from that deeper place and it'll be better than any advice I could get from any book. I threw away shelves and shelves of parenting books, and my parenting got easier and better. I couldn't help but to share that because it blew me away how easy parenting can be. I lose my feelings all the time as a parent, but that signals me to return to the now, go beyond all thought. As soon as I feel any contraction, go beyond all thought. I can hear Sid inviting, don't take my word for it. You try it. Let go of everything you're thinking. See what happens. It's more valuable what you discover than anything you could read in any book, no matter how spiritual. Spiritual words only are inviting you to discover that space in your own presence. There's a quiet, there's a feeling, and there's a knowing or guidance that's not of the intellect. It's the same guidance and knowing that turns the flower toward the sun. We're connected to that same wisdom. I'm putting all this in for your sake here, Eliza. You wanted me to talk about wisdom. It's a movement. A lot of times people, my clients will tell me, oh, I'm waiting to hear what wisdom tells me to do. It's a misunderstanding. Wisdom comes before the words. Sid says, you want to kill an insight? Think it's the words. Oh, I've had this insight. Oh, wait until I tell you what it is. Now you're holding on to the words. He said, if you want to benefit from an insight, don't hold on to the words, rest in the feeling. And an insight always comes with a beautiful feeling. Most of my insights never, ever get verbalized. I can't explain them. There's a shift in consciousness. I get quiet and suddenly, for no reason, I feel better and I see better. And it's so friggin' practical. I'd be with my wife. We're both in a low mood. We're both in sort of our own judgmental thinking. And if we look out at the world through that dark lens of judgmental thought, we become critical and judgmental. If we open our mouth, it comes out as some variation of being judgmental. So, what I experimented with for 2 years, just for the heck of it, no one told me, is that if I was with my wife and I lost my good feeling, immediately let go of everything I'm thinking, rest in the present moment. And if I needed to, walk out of the room until I got quiet and found the nice feeling again, the feeling of presence, because it's always here waiting, loving, giving. I drop into that feeling, then I walk back into the room with my wife, and she always looked so good to me. It didn't matter what mood she was in. You know, when you fall in love with somebody, you don't care if they're in a low mood, you think they're cute. And if they say something nasty, you just sort of let it roll off. That's why Sid says love is always, always the answer. If you have a problem, the paradox is don't think you can think your way to the solution or to wisdom or to love. It's what almost every human being does. But we're trying to find the answer in our computer. You don't go to a computer. I'm talking to you on my computer. I love my computer for information and for storage of information and memory. I love that. I love storing my photos on here, memories of the past. I love that's the purpose of it. But if I use my intellect in a way it wasn't intended to be used, if I try to find answers or love or wisdom, I feel tension, stress, or upset, and it's letting me know, Dicken, you've had enough screen time. Close your computer. Drop everything you're thinking. Let it go. Release. Surrender. Into what? The now. Into what? Presence. What's presence? The feeling that is always here underneath whatever we're thinking and feeling. Some people call that just the feeling of being alive. So I can ask people who are having psychotic episodes, caught up in hallucinatory dream world. I'll say, right now, are you alive? They go, what? I said, right now, are you alive? They go, let me check. And they always come back and say, yes, I am. I said, how do you know? They said, what do you mean, how do I know? I'm alive. I know, but how do you know? You just checked something. What did you check? And in order to find out if you're alive, you have to stop thinking and sense, feel. There's a feeling to life energy moving in us that indicates we're alive. That's where Sid was trying to point us when he said, listen for a feeling. You can be in the worst mood ever, and if you stop and listen for a feeling, you've just stepped beyond your story. You're in the now. You're feeling what is. You're feeling truth. Rest in that place. Be still and know that I am. I am is the feeling of existence before it's I am this, I am that, I am a man, I'm a woman, I am this, I am stupid, I am happy, I'm sad. Before that, so Sid would say, step before your thinking, step before your five senses. What's left when you let go of everything? I often ask my clients, if you let go of everything you're thinking, what's left? What do you still experience? What's here? What doesn't go away? What's been here since you were born and is still here now? When you let go of everything, what is that I am? And it's just a feeling, a presence, the feeling of being in this moment before it goes through the intellect and turns into a judgment, a should, a story, an expectation. So the start of all spiritual teachings says recognize how you're holding thought and go beyond it. Holding thought is ignorance, it's sinning, it's missing the mark, it's suffering. Just here's our hand. It's a perfect metaphor. It can be this way forever. It can do this, and sometimes this is helpful to If I want to figure out what time to catch my plane, I'll leave the present moment and go into my memory and information. And I love that we can Google all kinds of cool shit. But then I come back to the present moment for common sense, for clarity, for perspective, to feel better, to enjoy the moment, for aliveness, so that I have something to offer other people. So here's another way of saying it. There's a spiritual force that's always generating mental activity from the moment you're born until you die. That's what Sid called the power of thought. There's something generating constant mental activity, or you'd be flatline, you'd be dead. That's the power of thought. It's spiritual because it's this infinite field of formless energy is the only thing that has the power to create or generate, guide what's created. Right there, there's three principles. Mind, the creator God, the infinite field of life energy that out of which, out of this nothing, everything arises, is created. It's a mystery. Nobody can explain it. But that's where 100% of our experience is coming from. It's being created from this infinite formless field. So to simplify it, Sid says, okay, thought, this power is, we're always thinking, and it's natural to have a flow of positive and negative thoughts. It's like the inhale and the exhale. It's like night and day. It's not bad and not wrong. You eat food, you're going to have garbage. I don't care who you are. But you have to know the difference between healthy food and garbage. If you eat garbage, you get sick. If you give your attention to your garbage thoughts, you will get sick psychologically. Sid said that one of the most, I'd been a psychologist 10 years. Nobody said there's one cause of psychological suffering. One, you have a natural low quality thought, low mood thought, negative thought come into you. And it's just the garbage of our psychology. And or I get more graphic. I'm sorry. You eat food, you shit. It's normal. But you don't want to fuck with your shit. You don't want to mess with it. You don't want to play with it. You don't want to examine and analyze it. You just, what do you do with it? You go into the other room quietly and you flush it. So as soon as we feel shitty thoughts, flush them. Flush them. You're not denying, you're not avoiding, you're just letting go of low quality, judgmental thoughts. And then what's left? Presence, health, well being. So that's what's called free will. You can mess with your shitty thoughts and believe them, or you can not pay attention to them. Sid would say, ignore them. He told me many times, Dicken, don't you know when you feel that way, you can ignore what you're thinking instead of paying attention to it and thinking it's true? This is horrible. I can't stand this. This is what a problem. I can't believe this is such a problem. And little kids don't do that. They don't think about their thinking. They're too interested in coming back to the now and enjoying life. But we can become like little kids again. That's a spiritual teaching. You must become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. Gospel of Thomas, they asked Jesus, who shall we say we are? And he said, tell them you're children of light. And if you forget who you are, go ask a child of 7 days. These are every single culture has people who have dropped in and discovered light and lightness and love, and that's unconditional, and peace that's unconditional, the peace that passes understanding, is beyond the intellect, a happiness that's not contingent upon anything in the world. As a friend of mine says, being happy for no good reason. He's told me that. And he said, I'm stealing that line. I love that. Being happy for no good reason. I actually did a workshop called that one time. Fortunately, he's a good friend. He didn't care. He was happy to spread the word. Peace for no reason. That I talk to in the bomb shelters in Ukraine, when they fall out of all of their worry and upset thinking and judgments, and when they let that go and flush it, they feel peace of mind. They feel alive, and they can bring that f- feeling to other people as kindness. The circumstance can't prevent us from experiencing peace, joy, or love because it comes from spirit. So Sid kept trying to simplify it all the time because even now I'm making it sound so complicated. So he'd say things like, it's all thought. It's all thought. Everything you experience from the moment you're born until you die, it's all thought. There's nothing you experience that isn't created by your own thinking. You're the thinker. And if you realize it's all thought, you would immediately say, why would I want to continue to keep my attention on thinking that makes me feel miserable? Why would I hold on to those thoughts ever? Why would I ever think it's a good idea to keep holding on to shitty thoughts? And then surrender would not be a technique, it would be a response to the realization that the only problem is holding. Sid says if you really see thought, it'll bring you right back to the now. You'll be like a little kid again. You'll rediscover your peace, your happiness, your joy, your love. And none of it is contingent upon circumstance. None of it. That's why I've been a total student of the folks that are living this understanding in war zones. I'm just my whole life I've been fascinated by that, and then of course because I was so fascinated, one time I found myself in the middle of a guerrilla war in Peru and had machine guns in my chest and bombs going off and tanks and for a week I was sure I would not live to see my wife and kids again. But that was where I had one of my most powerful insights that even in that situation, I'm holding fearful thoughts. And when I let those go, I've had an enormous shift and suddenly just felt overwhelmed by caring and compassion and kindness. And I started bringing that to anybody around me that was fearful. And for the next 2 weeks, I just lived in my heart rather than my head, even though the situation was the same. So I know this is spiritual. It can't be hurt. It can't be damaged, no matter what your situation, no matter what's happened to you in your past. You're a thought of my favorite parts of Sid's teaching. You're a thought away from everything you're looking for. Because only in the now, you're a thought away from the now, and only in the now are you open and receptive to the flow of spirit, which feels good and is full of information that guides you. So Sid would say, what could be more simple? But the paradox is it's simple if you discover it for yourself. It's not simple if you think about it. It'll get more and more complicated. Concepts complicate. A mind free of all concepts, there is no complication. There is no problem. If I feel like I have a horrible problem, if I really rest in the present, in that moment, I don't feel any problem. I'm just open and receptive to a creative flow of possibilities. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do this. It doesn't feel like a problem. Like this time of year, before I go to bed, my wife goes to bed. And I say, I'll be right there, sweetie. And I go and I turn out the lights and I sit in the living room we have a Christmas tree with all the lights on it. And every one of those Christmas carols becomes a truth because I experience it. I drop into a peaceful mind and just rest in that peaceful mind. And then I just start feeling grateful. My senses come alive. I start feeling grateful. It's a natural response. It's not a technique, it's a natural response. Just start feeling grateful. And then I just start feeling this either love or compassion for the world. If I don't have a Christmas tree, I lie in my bed and close my eyes, and it's the Christmas story. I'm prancing around on the roof in a busy mind, and as spirit, come down through the chimney into the hearth. And then there's a generosity of spirit. And then there's a rising back up, a feeling of floating, of rising, of becoming lighter and lighter, like you can fly, and wishing well being to the world. And you can live the Christmas story all year long. Even if you happen to find yourself in a horrible situation. That's when I'm most grateful for having this understanding. When there's a family crisis, when a friend dies, when something I hoped would happen just falls off, when someone gets angry at me, that's when this understanding becomes most valuable. It's all thought and listen for a feeling and then let that feeling guide you. That's the whole of, that's the heart of every single spiritual teaching. I like to call it the heart of the principles. Our true nature is peace, joy, love, creativity, openness, aliveness, alignment with universal life energy. No concepts. Well, there's so much to discover. There's no end to the miracles that happen when we come down off out of our attic, static in the attic, and we fall into this quiet place of warmth and loving kindness. And then we bring that feeling into the world as a smile, a hug, a kindness, generosity, and we are then aligned with spiritual nature, which is generous and alive and giving, forgiving. That's what it means to be a human living a spiritual life, or a spiritual being living a human life. Well, Rich, shall we open it up? And I'd love to hear what you're hearing. I'm more interested in that than your questions, because then your intellect will get all excited. But if you do have a burning question, I'll see if I can point you beyond your intellect.
That I was in tears a little bit there, Dickon, just in the feeling of having Christmas in my heart all year round.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful. And I've been sharing that I'm my mother-in-law passed away, so it's my first Christmas without her.
Mm,
So it can be harder, and it's so good to connect with that part of myself and see that in other people too. So thank you for reminding me that.
mm.
Looks like Jerry has a hand up. You can share some of what you're hearing, Jerry. Go ahead.
I've got to start off with thanking Eliza for getting Dickon to open his wisdom. Wow, I think this is the most awesome call I've ever been on. Uh, yeah, very powerful. I love it. Just so many things you touched on to open it up to things that I've read from Sid that just
Yeah.
never clicked.
Mm.
You said it different this time. Well, I heard it this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You didn't say it any
You
different.
heard it. Yeah.
You didn't say it any, amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this, Dick. And thank Rich for having you on. I really appreciate it.
Rich,
Awesome, awesome.
Rich is a friend, and I was delighted when he asked me to come on and talk with him about this. And Jerry, I'm just delighted that you got quiet enough. Then you can't help but, wisdom can't help but to bring you something new and fresh. Sid would say if you take one little step beyond your precious thought system, something beautiful must come into you. That's how he said it. That was one of the last talks he gave before he died. And he said it with so much compassion and certainty and knowing and clarity. And it's not personal. It's just we touched this deeper intelligence, and it reveals one of its secrets to us. Suddenly something you've heard many times, you hear it and it really resonates and you feel it. You go, oh, now I know. Now I know what he's talking about. I'm very happy for you, Jerry.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for
I'll
sharing.
I'll rewatch this one several times, guaranteed.
Hmm. Eliza, how about you? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for the stimulus. It was great of Rich to think to ask people right off, what would you like to hear more about?
whatever you say is wisdom, first of all. And thank you, Jerry. So I had something, usually I'm just at peace, like at the peace level.
Yeah,
And I had a few weeks ago, I have three grown-up boys and with families and everything. So one I was at, and I felt like he said something not nice to me. And I woke up in the middle of the night, like crying.
yeah,
And I cried for a few minutes, and my insight said, whoa, the F Nelly. Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I
yeah,
crying? My kid loves me,
yeah, yeah.
and everything's good. And then I got back. I got back on track and I was fine. But
Okay.
for the three principles, I would have held it in, been mean the next morning,
Yeah,
had grudges and crazy stuff like that. And my insight just came to me like, Oh, my kids love me. Like I just made up this cockamamie story,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
my own little drama. And thank God for the three principles. There's nothing like it. For it's the reality check. It's the being in the world. It's just being in the world. I just love it. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Well, you're welcome, Eliza. Uh, uh, the fact that many people in the world don't know they're connected to a spiritual intelligence is the reason that we don't know where our feelings come from. So we blame them on other people. And it's the reason why people look for happiness in drugs and alcohol and sex and money and food. And it's innocent. They just don't know that spiritual intelligence is the source of pure love and pure happiness, pure peace.
And it's so easy. Like I know so many people that they're like my kids' age, they're all into, I'm putting little air quotes, healing. And even people my age, they just like the healing with the ayahuasca and the mushrooms
Yeah,
and
I know.
the generations. And it's just like grow up.
Yeah,
You know, it's self-made. I mean, if people really went through trauma is one thing, but it's just everybody's living in that bad place and they don't have to. They just have to wake up and have gratitude. That's
yeah,
what I think. But thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It,
You're welcome.
I had the thought of that the principals are kind of like embowling those little gutter guards. They're like little
Oh,
rubber, and
yeah.
then it'll bounce. And so without the principals, we'd end up in the mental gutter every
The
single
mental.
time, pretty going down. And they help us to stay like you talked about, you following your feeling. If it goes that way and it feels horrible, you say, okay, it's not that way.
Well, when people say, I'm not sure how to bring this into my daily life, Sid would help us with that because we would often ask him. And he'd say, it's so simple. Just go and enjoy yourself. And if at any moment you're not enjoying yourself, if you know that it's you holding some thoughts and you come back to the present, then you just go on with your life and enjoy yourself. He says, don't complicate this. If you're quieting down and bringing a nice feeling to other people, you are serving the world. You're making those people's lives better. And because we're one big universal ecosystem, by you having shifts in consciousness and bringing more well being into the world, bringing more kindness, more love, more happiness, the more you give away, the more you get. And it helps raise the overall level of consciousness of the world. So we really can make a difference in the world. Just walking down the street, just saying hi to people, just talking to your waiter and waitresses as if they're people rather than just robots coming to bring you something. Just as you interact with your kids or your dog or your parakeet, you can literally be bringing more love and compassion into the world. Eliza, your story is a perfect story. Is you caught yourself creating this, you came right back, and then you were able to then bring warmth and kindness back to your kids rather than low mood reactivity.
You know, I wanted to say before I was doing the three principles, I was doing one of these anonymous groups, and my kids all sat around with me and they gave me an intervention. And I was so upset. I went up and cried for hours. And then in the morning, I took my suitcase and I left and I walked the streets until I found a car service. Didn't speak to anybody for a while after. And then afterwards, that while I was on the three principles, they gave me another intervention. And I went upstairs. I cried for a minute. I stopped because somebody gave me this word phrase. Um, is it good? Like, is it good for me? Or where does this serve me? And I said, where does this serve me? Beep, nowhere. Dried my eyes and went downstairs. I was fine because there was nowhere that it would serve me to further on. So I
Yeah.
just moved on and I was fine. And thank God with the principles, it was I get to move on in life.
Yeah, we do. We get a
Yeah,
fresh start anytime, anytime.
right.
I mean, there's
Beautiful.
there's times I get caught up in my thinking and it seems real and I'm pretty sure that something out there is the cause and then I wake back up and I'm immediately grateful and I love that I can get a fresh start. The past doesn't exist except as memory. There is no past.
Man, that's brilliant. Thank you.
There is no past. And when the memory is activated, it creates this kind of feeling. So I know I don't have to know what they are. Sid would say, you don't have to know the content. Just realize you've left the present moment. You're thinking about something. You don't have to know what the thoughts are. You don't have to analyze anything. You just come back to the present moment. And as you're demonstrating in your stories, when you drop that thinking and come back, you calm down again. You drop into calm, the calm that's always there underneath our thinking, the heart that's always there underneath our thinking, the wisdom that's always there underneath our thinking. And then it just shines through naturally.
Beautiful. Thank you for
Mhm.
sure.
You're welcome. Thank
Are
you.
are you living in memory or are you living in the moment?
Yeah. Is it real or Memorex? Emily, hi.
Emily, yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this and thank you for having me. Um, so beautiful. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit to, I still have a hard time in the moment after I catch on that I'm having crappy thinking. I'm judging myself, I'm stressing out, I'm doing that, and I notice it. And I come back and then it's there again. And I just feel like this it's endless, with the
Yeah.
with the seeing it happen, knowing what's happening, and yet it's still happening. And I'm like, all right already,
Do you,
and
you see,
I
the
I
problem is you have an expectation about what you're thinking should and shouldn't do. Do you think, imagine yourself as a sky. Do you think the sky cares if the same bird keeps circling around for a long time and keeps coming back? Does it hurt the sky? I don't care if I have those thoughts in the back of my head flying around. I can still vacuum the house. I can still go be kind to my wife. You have two people in a low mood. One is doing more thinking and one is doing less. They're both in a low mood, but one now has access to wisdom. So they'll vacuum the house without bringing more negativity into the house. Is that making
thank you.
sense, Emily?
Yeah, thank you.
Once we start caring, we start thinking about our thinking. Why is this still here? Why is this coming back? It shouldn't come back. I don't want it to come back. And that's the thinking. That's the negative thinking that keeps it alive. Allowing is a nice word. Another nice word, it's one Eckhart Tolle uses all the time, non-resistance. You're not resisting any thought or feeling. You're being with whatever you're experiencing as it is without a story, without making up story about it. If you feel horrible and you're present, you can still be loving and kind. If you're in a story and you're caught up in the story, you won't be loving and kind. So it doesn't matter if you have no thoughts or 1,000 thoughts. The state of no thought means you're not holding those thoughts or giving them meaning. They're just neutral. They won't hurt you if they're flowing through you. They won't hurt you in any way. Just like birds flying through don't hurt the sky.
I think that for me, there's such an old habit of wanting to um, improve myself.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's a
And
hard
like
one.
the criticism, the self-judgment, because I want to do better. I want to be my best self. I want to, all those good intentions. And yet, in the meantime, I'm making myself miserable. And I know it's the wrong direction, and yet it still persists. So I love hearing how you're talking about the bird just flying around.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're present like that, you're extending blessing to the world in the same way the Tibetan prayer flags, when you hang them, they believe the wind blowing through them is spreading the prayer that's on each of those flags out into the universe. And we become prayer flags of peace and love and compassion when our minds are open and reflective, receptive to wisdom, no matter what we're feeling. I still have low moods, but now I'm more transparent in a sense. I'm more at ease, at peace with being in a low mood. If I start thinking I shouldn't be feeling this, I shouldn't be having this many thoughts, they shouldn't be coming back, listen to what I'm doing. You want to drive a little kid crazy? Go up and tell them they shouldn't be feeling what they're feeling. It's an impossibility. Don't be who you are. Don't feel what you're feeling. This is not about being in a good mood all the time. It's finding peace, joy, and love no matter what mood you're going through. It's a great discovery. You can be in a low mood, and if you're full of understanding and present, and you're present, you can be kind while you're in a low mood, kind to yourself, kind to other people.
Thank you.
Because otherwise, every time you go in a low mood, you judge yourself. You have expectations about what it should and shouldn't look like. You're making that up. Watch little kids. They still have low moods, no judgment, no shoulds, just presence, and then they come up. So Sid says it's not about being high, it's about learning how to go through your inevitable ups and downs gracefully. And then it's not wrong or bad to feel anything. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share or any questions? I'm not above calling on my friends. Felix, Anna,
Lori, go ahead.
Martin. Yeah, Lori, wonderful.
You're still muted. Here.
I got it. I thought you could read my lips. Anyway, Dicken, thank you so much. I just wanted to be here and take time out to sit and listen. And it's been wonderful as usual. But I wanted to share something. I've
Yeah.
been very busy. I've got a bunch of projects going on, and I've been distracted a lot, and a lot of thinking going on. And I have a new teacher in my life. I have a new dog.
Oh, wow.
Here,
Wonderful.
Brody. Brody, come. Not you. I got two.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'd love to see your new dog.
Uh, Brody, can you jump up here?
Oh boy, I'm getting a glimpse.
He's a poodle.
I
Hold
can
still.
see. I have a
And
poodle mix.
I know, but
Yeah,
when I'm caught up just busy thinking and doing things, he has a sense and he makes this face at me and it like I'm like, oh my God, I'm not present. And he helps me with that.
yeah.
It's really interesting.
It is very interesting.
I mean, a lot of times I can catch myself and I know that I need to stop and just come back to the now. But he's very sensitive. It's really interesting.
We can learn so much from our animals if we watch them because they're naturally drawn toward long periods of being fully present and sensitive and just
Yes,
letting wisdom move them rather than thinking about wisdom.
right. And that's why I said I have a new teacher.
Yeah, you do. You do. Lori, really good to see you.
Really good to see you.
Really good. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see each other in person again soon.
Hmm.
Anybody else have anything before we have about 5 minutes of Oh, Felix, my man. Hey,
I
hi.
I'm happy to be here. I just finished school and uh just
Congratulations. Wow. That's been a long time coming.
I know so I had some free time and I thought I'd come on and it was really nice listening to you. I've been trying to see I was thinking like what's my next direction in life? What do I want to do? And then I started thinking a bit too heavy and I'm like, nah, no, I gotta just chill out on it. Just let's see what comes to me. I don't want to anything. And I'm just,
I like that chill out and see what comes as opposed to what I can think. There's a difference between the thinking we do and when we're not thinking, thinking keeps coming to us. And that's what Sid says look for the new and fresh thinking that comes to you. Don't rely on the thinking you do for answers. He talked about that quite a bit. The
yeah,
thoughts that occur are the thoughts that bring positive feeling and new and fresh ideas. So we get out of the way. We stop thinking so that we can access a deeper kind of thinking.
yeah, that's right. I remember I watched one of your videos recently and you're talking about how you can't use the known to find the unknown.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, really nice. Because yeah, we think that we can circle around in here and get to the solution, but we only know what we've learned from birth here. We don't know anything new.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's why it says go beyond what you think you know to the deeper known, which is this new and fresh feeling, perception, motivation, insight, inspiration. It comes new and fresh when we get our egos out of the way. For anything ever, Sid would say love is always, always the answer. And by that, he meant when we fall out of thought, there's a feeling that expands. That's what he means by love. He didn't care if it was peace or joy or what we call love. It's just in that feeling that feels good, you get insight, you get guidance.
That's beautiful. You know, like being in that feeling, almost. Um, and how do I explain it? It's such a it's so interesting because, for example, if I'm in a low mood, then I'll recognize that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm in a low mood, so I'm gonna go back to the calm in my body. So I'll go back to the calm.
Yes.
Now I'll come back to the feeling. But
Yes.
if I'm really excited or hyped up,
Yeah.
it's tough to let go of that because that feeling it brings some sort of dopamine or some sort of
Yeah.
you don't want to let go of that. So
Yes.
it's almost like you can't it doesn't work that you can have it one way but not the other way because then it's not universal truth. It's
Yes.
almost only applies when you want it to apply. So I've been trying to see when I can I'm trying to explore how even in the states where I feel really happy or excited, even then I can drop to neutrality. But I'm having a little bit of I was wondering if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, that was tricky for me too because I grew up thriving on adrenaline. I would go from being bored to being an adrenaline junkie, and I loved that. I saw that as being really high and positive. But you can see, like in sports, if people get hyper, they don't perform well. If fans get hyper, they can get into fights. And so there's a difference between excitement that has tension and enthusiasm, which is the same feeling without tension. Like little kids sometimes are hyper. There's a lot of tension and hyper, and it gets old really quickly being around kids that are hyper. And but other times kids can just be calm but enthusiastic, and you never get tired being around them. You just love it, and they affect you in a positive way. And so I had to see the difference because I didn't know there was a difference. I was afraid if I wasn't excited, I'd be bored. I didn't know if I took away the tension and excitement and the tension and boredom, I would be enthusiastic. I would be happy. I would be enjoying. I wouldn't lose anything of value. I would lose the stress in it. I was a class clown, but often a class clown is the most unhappy person in the class. It's a hyper trying to impress and entertain and prove oneself. And when that falls away, you can be really funny, but there's no hyper in it. So for me, it's not whether sometimes a positive feeling is just really has a lot of tension in it. And I had to key in on the tension, and then I could go, oh, okay. If I let go of the tension, it'll shift from excitement to enthusiasm.
That's nicely said. And you bring up this example of children and babies.
Yeah,
I noticed that with children, babies, for example, if you do something to them, yeah, they'll cry, like you're saying, they'll cry, and then in a couple hours, it's like they forgot that that even happened.
that's exactly right.
Yes. Well, I was
Exactly
wondering,
right.
how can we be more like that? Like, is
We
it
can be.
the
We
moment?
can be. We can be. Some of my best teachers are these young teachers in Africa who have let go of their memories. And when they come back, they don't panic. They just let it go again right away. And then after a while, those memories don't even get activated. That, that's what we call healing. True healing is built into us to heal if we let those feelings flow through us without judging them. That's how people get over traumas. Traumas are just present moment memories that sometimes get activated, create strong emotions. But if you know it's just thought and you come back to the present moment, you're healing that trauma, that memory. The trauma in the past doesn't exist. It's just a present moment painful feeling created by that thought. You let that thought go, the pain goes away. I mean, we do it often, but sometimes it gets really strong and then we think it's a different thing, but it's not. It's still just thought.
Could you explain how it heals that trauma by
Yeah.
you coming into the present moment?
Like one time, my son was trying to cross the street with a friend. He was 9 years old. He looked one way, there was no cars coming. He looked the other way, lots of cars. And when there were no cars, he started running across the street. He didn't look back the other way at the college kid coming 80 miles an hour up the road. And he hit my son and threw him 44 feet. They thought he was dead at the scene of the accident. He had a broken hip. Other than that, he was fine. As it ended up, as really miraculous. He was so relaxed and loose when he got hit that he just hit and then rolled and was unconscious. But when he got out of the hospital and he could walk, I'd say to him, "Do you want me to take you to get your favorite lunch?" And he'd go, "Yeah." We had to walk a few blocks and we had to cross the main street in our city then. And the it turns red and I start crossing the street and I get halfway across the street and he's still back on the edge of the street. And I come back and I say, "Buddy, what's going on?" He says, "Dad, a car's coming." It was like half a mile away. And I said, "Okay, we can wait." And eventually we couldn't see any cars coming and he would cross the street. That's memory. You can see that, right? You can see memory from he was hit crossing the street because wasn't paying attention. So now he's hyper vigilant and he gets fearful thoughts when he stands at the edge of the street. That's memory. It's not trauma in the past. It's present moment memory. The trauma was when he got hit. So now he's crossing the street. It's all thought, remember? Next time, the car only had to be a quarter mile away before he felt safe. And each time, he got less fearful crossing the street. No therapy. He's just letting memory come up. I didn't make a big deal of it. I didn't think there was anything wrong. He didn't make a big deal of it. He just let it flow through. And if you let memory come up and just flow through and you don't hold on to it, next time it comes up, it's not as strong. Then next time it comes up, it's not as strong. That's literally how people get over painful things. Anybody. We've all done it. It's built into us to get over and heal from memory. So it's a memory problem. It's not a trauma problem. And when I work with guys in prison, it's a memory problem, not a trauma problem. And when they learn how to navigate memory, they can tell by the strong emotion, oh, you don't have to know what the memory is. Sometimes you realize, but you don't have to know. And then it flows through. Next time it's not as strong. Next time it's not as strong. Then you've gotten over it. It's built into us. Healing and getting over things is built into us if you don't interfere with it. Traditional therapy, like I used to do for 10 years, would be people would come in and they say, "I was trying to cross the street and I freaked out." And then we'd think about it and talk about it for the next several months. And every time we would do that, it would strengthen the memory. It wouldn't allow it to fade away and heal. It was innocent. I wasn't doing that on purpose. I really genuinely was wanting to help people. But eventually, my clients hopefully would not panic when that thought came up and just leave it alone, and then they would get better. Well, I wanted to thank everybody for coming. Rich, thanks for hosting this party.
Thank you so much, Dicken. And I think you have a program coming up, if I'm not mistaken.
I do in February. Once a year, I do a 6-week class based on what I'm most inspired to talk about. And I'm going to do a 6-week class on compassion starting in February. Uh, Details are on my Facebook page. I've announced it. If you're not on Facebook, you can email me and I'll just send it to you if you're interested. So, or the details are on my website. I put them on my threeprinciplesmentoring.com website.
And I'll link that to this video as well, so that people can
Oh,
watch
that'd
it
be
and maybe
great.
find it on the replay as well.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd
Yeah.
be great. So you're going to make the link available to people at some point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
So wonderful to have you, and thank you all for coming today. We had a wonderful crowd. If
Thank
you
you.
would like to, you can unmute and say goodbye and
Bye. Thank you so much.
bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for doing this. It was
Sure.
wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Rich.
Oh, good to see you,
Thank you.
Saul.
Thanks, Saul.
Bye, Divyesh.
Thanks, Divyesh.
Bye.
Bye, Anne Marie. Bye,
Bye,
Mike.
Jackie.
Bye,
Bye.
Marie.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Dicken.
Lori. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Happy holidays.